There's a saying that to truly understand a person, observe how they eat and behave at the table. When the formalities are removed, small habits reveal a person's true character. Watch the entire video to discover why a simple meal can reveal a person's true nature. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. In everyday life, people may prepare very carefully for important situations. They choose their words, gestures, and attitudes to make a good impression on others. However, when they sit down for a meal, especially an intimate one, many natural habits begin to surface without them even realizing it. Therefore, the ancients believed that the dining table is the easiest place to observe a person's true character. The way a person waits for others before starting to eat, whether they care about those around them or only focus on their own portion, reflects their level of thoughtfulness. Those who are considerate and observant, checking if everyone else is ready, are usually respectful and prioritize the common good. Conversely, those who rush and focus only on themselves often exhibit impatience or haste in many other aspects of life. Your attitude during small situations at the dinner table reveals a lot. Some people get annoyed at the slightest dissatisfaction with the food, while others calmly adjust and maintain a relaxed atmosphere for everyone. The ability to control emotions in small situations shows a level of inner maturity. Those who remain calm in simple matters tend to be calmer when facing major challenges. A dining table also reflects gratitude and awareness of the efforts of others. People who appreciate meals, eat moderately, and avoid waste are often those who understand the value of labor and value what they have. These seemingly small habits are closely related to how they view life in general. Therefore, observing someone during a meal isn't about making hasty judgments, but about gaining a deeper understanding of how they think and behave in their most natural situations. By paying attention to small details, we realize that a person's character isn't only revealed through grand pronouncements, but also through simple everyday actions. And it is these small things that reveal so much about the true person behind the social facade. 1. The dining table is where people are least guarded. In many social situations, people meticulously prepare their speech, emotional expressions, and behavior to project a positive image. When attending important meetings, formal gatherings, or other serious settings, we easily maintain the necessary composure. However, when sitting at the dinner table, especially during casual meals, this facade of self-control often crumbles. People revert to their natural habits, and these small actions often reveal their inner character quite clearly. Meal times are a time when the body needs to relax, so defensiveness decreases. At that time, many people no longer pay as much attention to how they should present themselves, acting according to long-standing habits. The way they wait for others, the way they choose their food, the way they react when the food isn't to their liking, all reveal personality traits that might be hidden in other circumstances. That's why the ancients often said that to understand a person, one should observe them in the most ordinary situations, and the dining table is one of the easiest places to see this. A person with a calm temperament usually eats slowly, paying attention to the overall rhythm of the meal. They observe whether others have had enough, if anyone needs anything else, and maintain harmony during the meal. This habit reflects a sense of collective concern and subtlety in communication. Conversely, those who are always in a hurry or only focus on their own portion tend to be quick-tempered or impatient. Such small behaviors are not absolute judgments, but they reveal fairly clear personality tendencies. The dining table is also a place where one's attitude towards the efforts of others is expressed. When someone appreciates food, eats moderately, and avoids waste, it shows they understand the value of labor and respect what they receive. Those who habitually waste food or constantly complain about small things may be dissatisfied or not truly appreciating the simple things in life. These behaviors, though small, are often repeated consistently, thus quite accurately reflecting how a person perceives the world around them. Another often overlooked aspect is emotional control. During meals, small incidents can arise, such as food not being to everyone's liking, slow service, or uncomfortable seating. A person's reaction to these things reveals their emotional stability. Those who maintain a calm demeanor tend to have greater inner balance, while those who easily become irritable over minor issues may struggle under greater pressure. Therefore, observing how a person handles small details during a meal can offer insight into how they cope with life's challenges. The dining table is also a place where respect for others is revealed. People who know how to listen, yield when necessary, and maintain a relaxed atmosphere are often good relationship builders. They understand that meals are not just about eating, but also about connecting. Conversely, those who constantly talk about themselves without considering the feelings of others may be putting their ego first. These seemingly small details can greatly influence how others perceive them. However, the important thing when observing someone at the dinner table is not to judge or draw hasty conclusions about them. Everyone has moments of fatigue or distraction, so a few temporary expressions cannot reflect their entire personality. The meaning of observation is to help us understand that small daily habits are the result of long-term training. By realizing this, we can also reflect on ourselves and adjust inappropriate behaviors, thereby building a more mature image. Meals also remind people of the simplicity of life. Great values aren't always expressed through grand gestures. Sometimes subtlety, gratitude, and respect are most evident in how we behave in the most ordinary moments. Those who pay attention to small details are often also careful in making big decisions. Therefore, cultivating good table manners not only creates a positive impression, but also contributes to a mature lifestyle. Ancient people believed that character is formed from repeated daily actions. When a person maintains politeness, composure, and consideration during daily meals, these qualities gradually become second nature. When faced with more important situations, they don't need to try too hard to maintain a stable demeanor. This naturalness creates a sense of trustworthiness in the eyes of others. More broadly, the dining table is a microcosm of how people behave in society. The way we share food is like the way we share opportunities. The way we wait for others to start is like respecting the shared progress. And the way we remain calm in the face of minor issues is like how we face major challenges. Therefore, learning refined table manners is also part of character development. Saying that the dinner table is where people are least guarded isn't to say that every behavior there is absolute, but to remind us that spontaneous moments often reflect a person's true self more than carefully prepared ones. Understanding this allows us to observe not only others, but also ourselves. Each meal becomes a small opportunity to cultivate composure, respect, and gratitude. Over time, these small changes accumulate and contribute to the image of a more mature and trustworthy person in life.
2. The way they wait or compete for a share reveals their patience or impatience. In everyday situations like a meal, a queue, or sharing a common opportunity, small actions often reveal a person's inner character. Some are willing to wait their turn, observe the general rhythm, and respect the order. Others rush forward, fearing they will be slower than others, and trying to grab the first opportunity. These two behaviors, though fleeting, profoundly reflect the level of patience or impatience in one's temperament. Waiting is not just about standing still, but about the ability to control emotions, while desires remain unfulfilled. When a person can calmly wait their turn without showing frustration, it demonstrates an understanding that things take time and that they don't always need to be first. Patience is a manifestation of inner strength. Patient people tend to have a longer-term vision, knowing that lasting benefits are more important than immediate gratification. Conversely, the behavior of vying for the best share stems from a fear of missing out or being inferior. When an opportunity arises, impatient people want to seize it immediately, without considering the surrounding context. At a meal, this might involve hastily choosing the best portion without waiting for others. In the workplace, it could be rushing to receive benefits before carefully considering the consequences. This mentality may sometimes provide short-term advantages, but in the long run, it can easily lead to conflict or loss of trust. The way a person waits also reveals their level of inner confidence. Confident people are usually not afraid of being left behind just because they arrived a few minutes late. They believe that if they have real ability and value, the right opportunity will still come. Therefore, they don't need to compete at all costs. Conversely, insecure people easily feel anxious when they don't immediately seize an advantage. They fear that, if they don't act quickly, they will lose everything. This anxiety leads to hasty and ill-considered actions. Patience is also related to foresight. In many situations, waiting allows us to observe more clearly and make more accurate decisions. When we are not in a hurry, we have time to assess whether what we are pursuing is truly appropriate. Impulsive people often skip this observation step because they are swept away by momentary emotions. As a result, they are more likely to make ill-considered decisions and later have to correct them repeatedly. In family or group settings, behavior while waiting or competing for things also affects the overall atmosphere. Those who are considerate and maintain order often contribute to harmony. They understand that slowing down a little can make the group more comfortable. Conversely, competitive behavior easily gives rise to feelings of injustice or discomfort. Over time, such small details accumulate into a significant impression of character. It's important to note that patience is not passivity. Many people mistakenly believe that waiting is synonymous with inaction. In reality, patience is actively controlling one's own pace. Patient people still have clear goals and are ready to act when the time is right. They don't procrastinate out of fear, but wait because they understand the process. This is the crucial difference between patience and sluggishness. In the journey of personal development, the ability to wait helps people build a solid foundation. Many great achievements require time to accumulate skills, experience, and relationships. If you skip the preparation phase just to get quick results, the achievements will be difficult to sustain. Patient people understand that slow but steady steps are usually more sustainable than hurried ones. They are willing to invest time in learning, training, and self-improvement before seeking recognition. Conversely, the habit of constantly competing can foster an unhealthy competitive mindset. When people always view everything as a race to be won immediately, they easily lose their balance. They may achieve short-term gains, but lose trust and goodwill. In long-term relationships, trust is the most important foundation. People who know how to wait and respect others tend to build a more trustworthy image. However, it's also important to recognize that not all speed is impulsiveness. Some people act quickly because they have prepared thoroughly beforehand. The difference lies in their mindset. Patient people act when they are ready, while impulsive people act out of fear or emotional pressure. Identifying the motivation behind actions helps us understand ourselves better and adjust accordingly. Reflecting on oneself in small situations, such as at the dinner table or in a waiting line, can be a valuable lesson. When feeling the urge to rush, we might ask ourselves why we're hurrying. Is it truly necessary, or simply a fear of being slower than others? By learning to pause, take a deep breath, and observe, we gradually cultivate calmness. This calmness, over time, becomes a habit and spreads to many other aspects of life. Ultimately, how people wait or compete is not just an outward behavior, but an expression of their inner psychological structure. Patience demonstrates confidence, long-term vision, and emotional control. Impatience reflects a fear of loss, a lack of trust in the process, and susceptibility to immediate emotions. Recognizing this gives us the opportunity to adjust, starting with the smallest details. And it is these small things, repeated daily, they gradually shape each person's lifestyle and character.
3. People who invite others first usually have a respectful attitude. In everyday situations, such as a shared meal, a gathering, or when sharing any benefit, small actions like offering food or inviting others first may seem simple, but they profoundly reflect a person's upbringing and attitude towards life. Those who maintain such habits usually do so not out of formal politeness, but because of how they value those around them. They understand that every relationship requires respect, and that respect often begins with the smallest details. Respect is not something that arises naturally, but is formed through long-term training. When someone is accustomed to placing others on equal footing with themselves, they naturally develop the habit of observing whether those around them are ready, whether they have a part to make, and whether anyone needs priority attention. Therefore, inviting others first is not a disadvantage, but an expression of inner maturity. Mature individuals understand that slowing down a little does not diminish their value. On the contrary, it helps build lasting trust and goodwill. In a family environment, those who habitually share often contribute to a warm and harmonious atmosphere. When family members feel cared for through small details, relationships become stronger. Children growing up in such an environment are also more likely to learn refined manners as they observe and imitate everyday behaviors. Therefore, even a small habit of adults can influence many subsequent generations. In the workplace, showing respect by inviting others to speak first also brings many positive values. Those who yield the opportunity to speak to colleagues and create space for others to express their opinions are often considered to be good collaborators. They don't view every situation as a competition to be the first, but understand that the success of the team is more important than individual performance at any given moment. This kind of behavior helps them build strong relationships and gain long-term trust. It's noteworthy that those who are willing to invite others first often have strong inner resolve. They don't worry that yielding will cause them to lose their position. On the contrary, they believe that their true value lies in their abilities and attitude, not in always being the best in every situation. This quiet self-confidence makes their actions natural and comfortable. When others sense this sincerity, they tend to reciprocate with similar respect. Respect is also closely related to foresight. People who focus only on immediate gains are often quick to seize opportunities, fearing they might miss out on small chances. Those with a long-term vision understand that positive relationships are far more valuable than short-term gains. When they invite others first, they send a positive signal that they value harmony over winning or losing. Over time, this very signal earns them trust and support from those around them. The act of yielding also trains people to control their ego. Natural instincts often lead people to want priority, to receive a better share, or to receive more attention. By proactively offering others first, we are training ourselves to restrain that instinct and choose more conscious behavior. This process helps balance the ego, making it less sensitive to gains or losses in small situations. People who maintain this balance are usually more likely to remain calm in larger situations. Many people worry that being too accommodating will make them seem insignificant, but in reality, genuine respect often has the opposite positive effect. When a person consistently shows thoughtfulness and consideration for others, their image gradually becomes more trustworthy and valuable. People tend to reciprocate with equal respect. This doesn't happen immediately, but accumulates over time, like a sustainable investment in relationships. However, respect goes beyond simply inviting others to eat first or in specific situations. It also manifests in listening to differing opinions, keeping promises, not exploiting others' trust, and treating everyone fairly. Small actions at the dinner table are merely the most visible manifestation of a broader set of values. When these values are consistently upheld, individuals project a trustworthy image in any environment. For each individual, cultivating a habit of respect can begin with very simple details. Slow down a little to observe if others are ready. Invite elders or guests first. Listen to others finish speaking before responding. Small actions, repeated frequently, will gradually become natural instincts. Then, we don't need to try to be polite. Subtlety will become a part of our way of life. Modern life often makes people more hurried, prioritizing efficiency and speed. In this context, acts of respect become even more valuable. They remind us that success is not only measured by personal achievements, but also by how we treat those who walk alongside us on our life's journey. Those who invite others first not only demonstrate politeness, but also show they understand the value of companionship and harmony within the community. Looking back, we see that many lasting relationships are built not on grand gestures, but on small details repeated daily. An invitation, a gesture of consideration, a timely display of care can leave a far more lasting impression than flowery words. Therefore, cultivating respect through small actions not only helps improve oneself, but also creates a positive living environment for those around us. If you want to build a trustworthy and respected image in your relationships, start with simple actions like inviting others to eat first and observing how those around you feel. Share your thoughts on the value of respect and spread this positive habit so that more people realize that it is the small details that create great character.
4. Attitudes towards service staff clearly reflect a person's true character. In many social situations, people may choose tactful words and appropriate behavior to make a good impression on those in equal or higher positions. However, when faced with service workers, many unconsciously reveal their true thoughts. It is this seemingly small moment that reveals the level of respect, compassion, and depth of a person's upbringing. A person with strong character understands that all professions deserve respect. They see service staff as people doing their job, not as subordinates who can order them around or assert their authority. Therefore, the way they take orders, express gratitude, or wait patiently during busy times is always gentle and patient. These simple actions, without any effort, clearly convey kindness to those around them. Conversely, those lacking respect often reveal their feelings quickly when service doesn't meet expectations. Even a few minutes delay in food, or a minor error, can trigger them to raise their voices, show annoyance, or use impolite language. Notably, this reaction doesn't stem from the circumstances, but from ingrained habits. People who are self-centered often believe that service should be immediate, and if that doesn't happen, they feel disrespected. This mindset leads to disrespectful behavior. Attitudes towards service staff also reflect a level of emotional control. Everyone experiences tiring or stressful days in life. However, psychologically mature individuals understand that their negative emotions are not a reason to vent them on others. When encountering problems during a meal, they maintain a calm tone, clearly explain the issue, and wait for the staff to resolve it. They know that behind the counter are people also working under time pressure and responsibility. This calmness not only helps resolve the issue more quickly, but also creates a pleasant atmosphere for everyone. Another often overlooked aspect is empathy. Empathetic people often notice the hard work of service staff, especially during peak hours. They might smile when ordering, say thank you when their food is brought, or simply tidy up their dishes after eating to make it easier for the server to clear. These actions are small, but demonstrate a big thought, recognizing the value of other people's efforts. When people see the efforts of those around them, they naturally behave more gently. The way you treat service staff directly impacts your image in the eyes of your friends and family. In a social gathering, many people pay less attention to your words than to how you treat those in positions of authority. A person might say something very moral, but if they show disrespect to the service staff, the positive impression immediately diminishes. Conversely, someone who treats service staff kindly is often perceived as trustworthy and well-mannered. The habit of respecting service staff also helps build a more positive social environment. When customers behave politely, service staff feel valued, and as a result, they serve with greater enthusiasm. Respect creates a positive feedback loop. Everyone feels comfortable, and work proceeds more smoothly. This shows that a small action by each individual can contribute to a better overall atmosphere. To develop this habit, each person first needs to change their perspective. Remember that everyone started with simple jobs, and many successful people today once worked in service industries. When we understand that a person's value is not determined by their current profession, we will naturally treat others more equally. In addition, practicing saying thank you, apologizing, and maintaining a calm tone in all situations is also a very effective way to cultivate this habit. These actions, repeated daily, will gradually become a natural reflex. Another practical approach is to observe yourself in waiting situations. When food is delayed or there's a mix-up, ask yourself if your reaction is creating unnecessary pressure on others. Just taking a few slow breaths and speaking in a calm voice can make a huge difference. This small change not only makes others feel more comfortable, but also helps us maintain a more stable mental state. In modern life, people are often judged by their achievements, finances, or status. However, these criteria do not fully reflect their character. True character is often revealed in how we treat those who do not directly benefit us. Service staff are such people, and the way we treat them becomes a very clear reflection of our inner selves. If you want to understand someone better, observe them during a meal and pay attention to how they speak to the waiter. And if you want to improve yourself, start by showing respect in the smallest moments. Share this article with your friends to reflect on, and leave a comment about your experience witnessing acts of kindness at the table. Small changes today can create a more peaceful society tomorrow.
5. The way people talk while eating reveals their sophistication or rudeness. The dining table is not just a place to eat, but also a special space for communication. There, people are often less defensive than in a work environment or formal meetings. Therefore, words spoken during meals easily reflect the depth of one's upbringing, the level of concern for others, and the ability to control oneself. A refined person understands that meals are a time for everyone to share. They choose appropriate topics, avoiding stressful or unpleasant conversations. They know how to listen instead of monopolizing the conversation. When others are speaking, they don't interrupt but wait for their turn. This waiting shows respect. Their voice is just right, not too loud to draw attention, and not too soft to require repeated questioning. Everything exudes moderation. Conversely, those lacking tact often speak based on immediate emotions. They might tell negative stories, complain about others, or discuss sensitive topics at the dinner table. Some speak too loudly, laugh excessively, or use harsh language. Others focus solely on themselves, boasting about their achievements without regard for the feelings of those around them. These behaviors create a tense atmosphere at the meal. The way you talk during a meal also reflects your ability to empathize. Refined individuals often pay attention to whether the topic they introduce is relevant to everyone. If there are older people, they avoid talking too much about new trends that older people might find difficult to keep up with. If there are young children, they limit overly complex conversations. They know how to adjust the content so that everyone feels involved. This adjustment isn't artificial, but rather a genuine expression of care. Another noteworthy point is how unexpected situations are handled. If the food isn't to their liking or has minor flaws, a tactful person will offer gentle feedback. They won't utter harsh criticisms that would embarrass the cook. They understand that words spoken during a meal can affect others' moods for a long time afterward. Conversely, a rude person might immediately blurt out unpleasant remarks, inadvertently ruining the warmth of the meal. In business meetings, the way one speaks at the dinner table reflects their professionalism. A sophisticated person avoids turning meals into tense meetings. They choose appropriate times to discuss important matters while maintaining a relaxed atmosphere. An unsophisticated person might impose their will on the topic, constantly talk about personal gain, or pressure others during meals. It's worth noting that subtlety isn't innate, but can be cultivated. Each person can begin by paying attention to their voice volume, choosing gentle words, and learning to listen more. Before speaking, ask yourself if what you're saying will offend anyone. Just a moment of reflection can make your words more thoughtful. Meals are inherently a time for connection. When words are used appropriately, they help bind people together and create beautiful memories. When words are uncontrolled, they can damage relationships. Therefore, the way people talk while eating not only reveals their tact or rudeness, but also their level of inner maturity. Observing this in others helps us understand them better. Reflecting on this in ourselves helps us improve every day. 6. The way people talk while eating reveals their refinement or rudeness. The dining table is a special space where people temporarily leave the rhythm of work and spend time sharing with others. In that moment, social formalities are often relaxed, and true communication habits begin to emerge. Therefore, simply observing how a person converses during a meal can give a clear sense of their upbringing and the depth of their character. Refined individuals understand that meals are not just about satisfying hunger, but also about connecting emotionally. They choose to speak softly at a volume that is just loud enough to be heard without offending others. When participating in conversations, they listen before speaking and only share when it's their turn. They avoid interrupting others, understanding that every interruption makes the other person feel disrespected. Their patience in conversation creates a pleasant atmosphere, making everyone want to stay longer. Conversely, Those lacking tact often speak based on immediate emotions. They might speak too loudly or incessantly without realizing that others also want to share. Some bring negative stories into meals, such as complaining about work or criticizing absent guests. When the atmosphere of the meal is filled with complaints, the initial warmth quickly disappears. This isn't because they intentionally try to be unpleasant, but because they haven't realized the impact of words in an intimate setting like the dining table. The choice of topic also reflects tact. Conscious individuals tend to choose neutral topics that create a comfortable atmosphere for everyone. They might gently inquire about each other's lives or share positive experiences. If they notice someone is quiet, they skillfully initiate conversation to make them feel appreciated. Conversely, inattentive individuals often only talk about themselves or things they enjoy without considering whether others are interested. As a result, the conversation becomes disjointed and lacks connection. Another sign of tact is the ability to adjust one's speech to the context. At family meals, they can engage in intimate conversation while still maintaining respect for elders. At business dinners, they know how to maintain moderation, avoiding excessive talk or inappropriate jokes. Those lacking tact often fail to recognize the differences between contexts, easily creating awkward situations for those around them. Just a few thoughtless remarks can diminish the goodwill they've built up. How one reacts to unexpected situations also reveals maturity in communication. If the food isn't to their liking, a tactful person will offer gentle feedback or remain silent and continue eating. They understand that blunt criticism can upset the person who prepared the meal. A less tactful person, on the other hand, is more likely to express their emotions immediately and say hurtful things without thinking. The difference between these two attitudes lies in the ability to control one's words and their consideration for the feelings of others. Many people consider talking during meals to be a small, insignificant habit. However, these small habits are repeated daily and gradually create lasting impressions. A person may be well dressed, but simply speaking rudely during a meal can significantly diminish their image. Conversely, someone who speaks politely always gives off an impression of trustworthiness and approachability. Therefore, subtlety in communication doesn't need to be ostentatious. It's expressed through very simple actions. Subtlety is also reflected in the choice of words. Careful people usually choose clear, gentle language, avoiding offensive words. They don't joke excessively, understanding that everyone has different levels of sensitivity. When offering constructive criticism, they use a calm tone to make it easier for the listener to accept. Those lacking subtlety may use harsh words or excessive teasing, causing others to feel hurt even while outwardly smiling. Small differences in word choice create a large gap in the listener's perception. Another crucial element is the ability to listen. Refined individuals don't view conversations as a stage to show off, but rather as an opportunity to understand others. They look at the speaker, nod slightly to show attention, and respond appropriately. Those lacking refinement often simply wait for their turn to speak, failing to truly listen to others. Without active listening, conversations lose balance and become superficial. The way we talk during meals reflects the upbringing we received. Families that prioritize etiquette often teach their children to speak softly and to wait their turn. Children who are trained early on develop natural communication habits without much effort. Conversely, if left uncorrected, these impolite habits can easily persist into adulthood. However, this is not impossible to change, as anyone can learn to communicate better once they recognize its value. In a work environment, shared meals are often opportunities to build relationships. A skilled communicator easily creates goodwill and trust. They don't need to say much, but each word is clear and timely. Those who talk too much or lack emotional control may inadvertently reduce opportunities for collaboration, even with strong professional skills. Therefore, communication skills during meals can sometimes directly impact long-term career development. To become more refined, each person can start with small steps. Pay attention to keeping your voice volume at a moderate level. Let others finish speaking before sharing your opinion. Choose positive stories and avoid discussing controversial topics unnecessarily. By consistently making these small changes, conversations will gradually become more mature and pleasant. Most importantly, it's about sincerity. Subtlety isn't about striving for perfection, but about genuinely caring about the feelings of those around you. When you put yourself in the listener's shoes, you naturally know what to say and how to say it. The meal thus becomes a warm space where everyone feels respected and understood. The way people talk while eating reveals their tact or rudeness, not only because words are heard more clearly, but also because emotions are perceived more distinctly. In an intimate setting, every gesture and tone of voice easily creates a lasting impression. A gentle remark can make a meal enjoyable, while a thoughtless word can create a tense atmosphere. Understanding this will encourage individuals to be more careful in their communication and gradually build a trustworthy image in the eyes of others. When words are used with respect and a sense of connection, meals become not just times for eating, but also moments for nurturing relationships. The subtlety of conversation is therefore not a distant skill, but a habit that can be cultivated daily. And it is through these small habits that each person's character is naturally, clearly, and sustainably revealed. 7. People who eat quickly are often those who live fast-paced lives and lack patience. This seemingly small habit actually reflects the inner rhythm of each person's life. Observing everyday meals, it's easy to notice some people always eat very quickly, almost without paying attention to the taste of the food or the conversations around them. They eat in a hurried state, as if racing against time. This behavior is not only related to their eating habits, but also reveals how they approach life. Fast eaters often have a feeling of needing to get everything done quickly. They easily become impatient while waiting and annoyed when things go slower than desired. This habit stems from internal pressure or a lifestyle accustomed to rushing. Once accustomed to a fast pace, they unconsciously apply that rhythm to all activities, including meals, which should be a time for relaxation. This makes it difficult for them to enjoy ordinary moments and leaves them in a state of mild stress without even realizing it. Hasty eating habits also reflect a level of patience and thinking. People who eat too quickly tend to want immediate results. When working, they easily lose motivation if results aren't seen quickly. In relationships, they may also expect others to respond quickly to their wishes. When expectations aren't met, they easily become frustrated or make hasty decisions. This doesn't mean everyone who eats quickly lacks patience, but eating habits often reflect an inner psychological rhythm. Another consequence of eating quickly is reduced sensory perception. When eating too fast, people find it difficult to recognize whether they have eaten enough, so they are more likely to overeat. This not only affects health, but also shows a lack of attention to internal signals. People who live in a hurry often focus on quickly completing a meal instead of deeply appreciating it, and over time they may miss out on many meaningful experiences in life. A meal, which could be a time for relaxation and connection, becomes merely an intermediate step to be completed for those who eat quickly. In social interactions, rushing at the dinner table can sometimes give the impression of a lack of consideration for others. When someone eats too quickly and gets up early, others may feel they don't want to spend time together. While this isn't always true, it's easy to form a first impression. Conversely, those who eat at a moderate pace often help the meal last long enough for everyone to converse comfortably. Even a small change in pace can affect the overall atmosphere. People who live life in a hurry often experience invisible pressure from the thought that time is always scarce. They feel the need to rush every minute, so even meals become something they need to finish quickly. However, when everything is done in a rush, the mind rarely has a chance to rest. The accumulated stress makes them easily tired and unable to maintain long-term concentration. Meanwhile, those who know how to slow down in small activities tend to maintain better stability because they give themselves the necessary breaks. Impatience also affects problem solving. People who act quickly may make decisions before thinking deeply enough. In some situations, this helps them react quickly, but in many others, it leads to regrettable mistakes. Important decisions require time for consideration, and the ability to be patient is fundamental to thorough thinking. The habit of eating slowly or quickly doesn't entirely determine personality, but it contributes to how a person approaches daily problems. It's noteworthy that the habit of rushing is entirely changeable. When a person becomes aware of their eating speed and tries to slow it down little by little, they often find themselves feeling calmer. Putting down chopsticks between bites, chewing more thoroughly, or taking time to chat during meals are simple but effective steps. When the eating pace slows down, breathing also becomes more stable and the mind less stressed. Small changes repeated each day gradually influence how one thinks and reacts in life. A person who knows how to regulate their eating pace often also learns how to regulate their work pace. They understand that speed isn't always good and that some things require long-term perseverance. Once the habit of patience is formed, they are less swayed by short-term results. This calmness helps them pursue their goals more persistently and avoid many mistakes caused by haste. Therefore, observing eating habits is not only about judging others, but also an opportunity to reflect on oneself. People who eat quickly are often seen as those who live fast-paced lives and lack patience. But this isn't a predetermined fate. It's simply a sign that their inner pace is too fast and needs adjustment. By learning to slow down in simple activities like eating, people create necessary pauses for reflection. These pauses allow them to see more clearly what's happening and choose appropriate responses instead of reacting habitually. Modern life often encourages speed, but maturity requires moments of slow reflection. A meal enjoyed calmly is not only good for health, but also helps people regenerate mental energy. When no longer dominated by feelings of urgency, they are more likely to find joy in small things and maintain a more stable mood. As a result, decisions become wiser because they are made in a state of balance. Observing your own eating habits is a simple way to understand your inner rhythm. If you realize you always eat too quickly, it could be a sign that you're under more stress than necessary. Just slow down for a few minutes at each meal. Breathe deeper and pay attention to the flavors of the food, and you'll notice a significant change. When this habit is maintained, your patience in other activities will gradually improve. Those who know how to slow down in small matters are more likely to remain calm in larger ones. Patience isn't something that comes naturally. It's cultivated through daily actions. A slow meal can be a simple exercise that helps people learn to live more balanced lives. When their inner rhythm stabilizes, they no longer feel the need to rush with everything around them and can focus on what truly matters. 8. The way they share food reflects their generosity. Because the dining table is where even the smallest actions reveal a person's attitude towards life. When people sit around a table, serving food to others, offering the best portions, or proactively inviting others to eat first, is not only polite, but also reflects how a person views the common good. People who habitually share tend to have a generous spirit. They don't see food as something to keep to themselves, but rather as an opportunity to connect. A generous person at the dinner table often notices whether others have already had their share. They proactively turn their plate towards those sitting further away, suggesting everyone share, or divide the food into smaller portions so everyone has a chance to try it. These actions are natural and unostentatious, yet they create a warm atmosphere at the table. When treated in this way, those around easily sense genuine care, and the overall atmosphere becomes more relaxed. It is these small moments that help form lasting goodwill between people. Conversely, those who share less food tend to focus more on their own portion. They might unconsciously choose the best parts first, keep the food close to them, or pay little attention to whether others have had a chance. This doesn't necessarily stem from intentional selfishness. Sometimes it's just an unnoticed habit. However, in a social setting, such small details still make a strong impression. A person who shares is often perceived as approachable and generous, while someone who shares less is easily perceived as withdrawn or lacking in team spirit. Sharing food also reflects how a person perceives abundance. People who feel secure in their lives tend to share more easily because they don't fear losing their share. They believe that when everyone is happy, they themselves feel comfortable. Conversely, people who are always worried about scarcity sometimes tend to hold on to their share, even when they have plenty. Therefore, the level of generosity at the table is sometimes related to a person's inner sense of security. In family gatherings, those who know how to share food often play a connecting role. They create a friendly atmosphere with simple invitations like, "Try this dish," or "This dish is delicious." These invitations make others feel cared for and more likely to open up and talk. The meal thus becomes more than just eating. It becomes a time to nurture relationships. Many strong relationships are formed from simple meals filled with sharing. The habit of sharing also demonstrates the ability to put oneself in others' shoes. When they see someone sitting far away, having difficulty reaching the food, a considerate person will proactively offer it without being asked. When they realize the food is running low, they might suggest ordering more so everyone has enough. These seemingly small actions show observation and a spirit of concern for the group. People with this habit are often also more cooperative at work because they are accustomed to thinking about the common good. It's noteworthy that generosity doesn't depend on the value of the food. Some people are willing to share even a small portion, while others, despite having a lot, are unwilling to give. Therefore, what matters isn't how much is shared, but the willingness to share. When generosity becomes a habit, it spreads to many other aspects of life, such as time, knowledge, and help. Generous people at the table are often also willing to help others in other circumstances. The habit of sharing food can be cultivated. Simply start by paying more attention to those at your table, proactively offering others food first, or dividing portions so everyone can enjoy them. With regular practice, sharing becomes a natural reflex. The person sharing also feels happier realizing that the meal becomes warmer when everyone enjoys it together. The way they share food reflects their generosity, not just in a single meal, but in their approach to life. People who are accustomed to sharing often bring a sense of comfort to those around them, and this helps them build lasting relationships. Observing how someone shares at the table is sometimes enough to understand their attitude towards life. And it also reminds each of us that generosity begins with very small actions that happen every day. 9. People who maintain cleanliness at the dining table are often disciplined, as this small habit reflects how they manage themselves in daily details. The dining table is where people easily relax after a day's work, so the way they keep it tidy in the most comfortable setting further demonstrates their level of self-discipline. Someone who consistently wipes the table clean, arranges dishes neatly, and avoids spilling food is usually someone with better behavioral control than someone who acts impulsively. Discipline isn't always demonstrated through big things. It's often built from small, repeated actions every day. When someone develops the habit of maintaining hygiene during meals, they are cultivating observation skills and responsibility towards their surroundings. They understand that tidiness not only brings a sense of comfort to themselves, but also shows respect for those at the table. This sense of respect helps them maintain orderly behavior, even without reminders. Disciplined people often pay attention to order in many aspects of their lives. At the dinner table, they eat moderately, avoid spilling food, and after eating, they clean up their own food instead of letting others do it. These actions come naturally to them because they are accustomed to fulfilling their responsibilities to the end. When observing them in family or work environments, it is easy to see that those who keep the table clean are often also people who work systematically, know how to manage their time, and rarely let work go undone. Maintaining cleanliness at the dining table also reflects attention to detail. Careful people notice small stains and proactively wipe them away before they become a mess. They don't wait until things get too messy before starting to clean up. This habit of addressing issues early also shows in how they solve problems. When they discover mistakes, they usually correct them early instead of letting the situation become complicated. This ability to notice early and act promptly creates lasting effectiveness in both work and life. Another noteworthy point is that those who maintain cleanliness at the dining table often have a sense of responsibility towards the shared space. They understand that tidiness not only benefits themselves, but also affects the feelings of those around them. When everyone consciously keeps their own area clean, the shared environment becomes more pleasant for everyone. This reflects a responsible mindset, where each individual is aware of their role in the group. Conversely, people who regularly leave their dining tables messy may not pay much attention to the consequences of their small actions. They might think that cleaning up is unimportant or that someone else will do it. Over time, this habit leads to a lack of discipline in other areas. Once accustomed to overlooking small details, they are also more likely to overlook important steps in their work or personal plans. This isn't an absolute rule, but daily habits tend to influence how people act in other areas. Maintaining cleanliness at the dining table is also related to self-respect. Self-respecting individuals often desire a tidy environment because it helps them feel more comfortable and focused. They understand that a well-organized environment contributes to a positive mental state. When the table is clean, meals become more enjoyable and their appreciation for life increases. This appreciation leads them to maintain tidiness as a natural part of their lifestyle. Discipline is formed through regular repetition. A person doesn't need to do anything grand to become disciplined. Simply maintaining attention to detail in small actions, like keeping the table clean, arranging dishes neatly, and tidying up after meals is sufficient. These actions cultivate self-control and lay the foundation for long-term stability. Once accustomed to completing small tasks thoroughly, they are also more likely to persevere in achieving larger goals. In families, the habit of keeping the dining table clean also has educational value. Young children, by observing adults voluntarily cleaning up, often learn naturally. Without much prompting, the image of adults tidying up after meals becomes a vivid lesson in responsibility. Over time, this habit helps to form a neat lifestyle for the whole family and creates a more positive living environment. People who maintain table hygiene are often disciplined because they understand that order begins with the smallest things. When a person pays attention to small details in their daily life, they are building a foundation for stability in thought and action. Discipline is not about rigidity, but rather the ability to maintain good habits even when no one is watching. Simple habits like keeping the table clean contribute to a trustworthy demeanor and mature character over time. 10. When unexpected situations arise, such as food not meeting expectations, their reactions reveal their ability to control their emotions, because moments of disappointment are often when people reveal their true nature most clearly. At the dinner table, many people prepare to enjoy their favorite dishes, but reality doesn't always live up to expectations. Some dishes are too salty, too bland, simply not to their liking, or they are served later than expected. How each person reacts to such small things reflects how they face larger challenges in life. People with good emotional control tend to remain calm when faced with unpleasant situations. They can gently sample a dish, smile, and choose another option without disrupting the overall atmosphere. They understand that an imperfect meal isn't a big deal and isn't worth creating tension over. This composure makes those around them feel comfortable because they don't escalate the situation. Even a mild reaction demonstrates inner stability and the ability to self-regulate emotions. Conversely, people who have difficulty controlling their emotions tend to react more strongly when the food isn't to their liking. They may openly express their displeasure, complain constantly, or unintentionally create tension. These reactions sometimes don't stem from a major issue, but from a habit of reacting quickly emotionally. Having become accustomed to showing frustration in minor situations, they are also more likely to lose their temper in more important ones. Therefore, reactions at the dinner table can be seen as a subtle indicator of how people cope with pressure in general. Emotional control isn't about suppressing your true feelings, but rather about choosing an appropriate response. A calm person might recognize that the food isn't good, but they choose to handle it gently so as not to upset others. They understand that maintaining harmony during a meal is more important than showing their displeasure. This choice requires a high degree of self-awareness, as they must recognize their own emotions and decide not to let those emotions control their behavior. Small reactions at the dinner table are often formed from long-standing habits. People who regularly practice calmness in life naturally maintain a stable attitude even when faced with unexpected situations. They are accustomed to observing before reacting and understand that many issues don't require immediate responses. Conversely, those who pay less attention to managing their emotions tend to react instinctively without much thought. This difference is not entirely innate, but is developed through practice. The ability to control emotions also demonstrates respect for those around you. During a shared meal, an overly strong reaction can make others feel awkward. Those who can remain calm understand that their actions affect the group, so they choose to react gently to maintain a comfortable atmosphere. Concern for the feelings of others is a sign of mature communication. People who can control themselves are often considered cooperative and trustworthy because they don't unnecessarily escalate situations. Reactions to unsuitable food also reveal a person's level of flexibility in thinking. Flexible individuals accept that things don't always go as planned and are willing to adapt. They view it as a minor experience and shift their attention to something more positive, such as the conversation at the table or the presence of those around them. This attitude helps them maintain a stable mood and enjoy the present moment. Conversely, inflexible individuals are more likely to get stuck in unpleasant feelings and let them linger longer than necessary. Developing emotional control can begin in small situations, such as at the dinner table. When faced with something unpleasant, instead of reacting immediately, try pausing for a few seconds to acknowledge your emotions. This brief pause allows reason to intervene before action. With consistent practice, this habit of remaining calm in small situations will gradually spread to larger ones. People begin to realize they always have a choice in how they react, rather than being completely controlled by their emotions. A person who knows how to control their emotions often creates a sense of security for those around them. When they remain calm, others feel comfortable sharing and cooperating because they know that difficult situations will be handled calmly. This is especially important in the workplace or at home, where unexpected situations frequently arise. An individual's emotional stability sometimes helps the entire group maintain balance. More broadly, the way we react to food we don't like is a microcosm of how we deal with unexpected things in life. Life is full of surprises, and we can't always control the circumstances. The only thing we can control is our own reaction. People who understand this usually focus their energy on adjusting their attitude instead of complaining about the situation. This focus on what they can control helps them maintain peace of mind in many situations. Emotional control doesn't mean always appearing perfect, but rather the ability to regain balance after emotions arise. When a person recognizes they are upset and proactively adjusts their behavior, they are practicing emotional maturity. Each instance is a step in training, helping them to react better in the future. Over time, calmness becomes a natural reflex rather than a forced effort. When unexpected situations arise, such as food not to their liking, their reaction reveals their ability to control their emotions because it's a moment without much prior preparation. The most natural reactions often occur in such moments. Observing how someone handles small situations helps us understand their inner stability and also reminds each of us to pay more attention to our own reactions. By simply starting with staying calm in small matters, people can gradually build inner strength to face bigger challenges with a steady mindset. 11. In daily life, meals are not only a time for people to replenish energy, but also a space where many inner qualities are revealed. When people sit together around a table, defenses are often lowered, and emotions and natural habits emerge. Therefore, how a person behaves during a meal often accurately reflects their personality and inner depth. Among many different expressions, the ability to listen while eating with others is a prominent sign of a person's level of understanding and maturity. Good listeners at meals don't try to dominate the conversation. They don't talk excessively about themselves, nor do they constantly try to steer the conversation in their favor. Instead, they pay attention to the other person, observing their eyes, listening to every word, and responding in moderation. This seemingly small action demonstrates a very important quality: respect. When someone truly listens, they are sending the message that your story is valuable, your feelings are worth considering, and your presence is appreciated. In modern society, where people are often busy and accustomed to expressing themselves, the ability to listen is becoming increasingly rare. Many people sit at the dinner table, but their minds are still preoccupied with work, their phones, or personal matters. Some wait for others to finish speaking, just so they can speak themselves, rather than truly listening to understand. Therefore, when encountering someone who patiently listens, without interrupting or hastily refuting, one can easily sense the difference. That difference is the foundation of the ability to empathize. Listening during meals also demonstrates self-control. A good listener tends to have a slower pace of life, a more stable mind, and is less easily swayed by impulsive emotions. They understand that conversation isn't about winning or losing, but about connecting. When others share joy, they listen to share in it. When others talk about difficulties, they listen to empathize. This patience helps them build many lasting relationships, because everyone wants to be around someone who makes them feel understood. A meal may not last long, but the way people listen during that short time leaves a profound impression. Some people are excellent speakers, but because they don't know how to listen, others still feel a distance between them. Conversely, some people don't speak much, but simply by listening attentively with eye contact, gentle nods, and timely responses, the other person feels close and trusting. This shows that understanding doesn't begin with words, but with sincere listening. The ability to listen during a meal also reflects a person's level of interest in those around them. When someone truly pays attention to your story, they will remember small details you mentioned, such as your job, your plans, or the difficulties you're facing. The next time they meet, they might ask about it, share more, or offer appropriate encouragement. Such small actions create a feeling of genuine care, something that mere small talk can hardly replace. Furthermore, good listeners tend to have a higher capacity for learning. Every conversation during a meal is an opportunity to learn more about people, their life experiences, and different perspectives. By listening more than speaking, they accumulate more knowledge, broaden their horizons, and avoid subjectivity. This quiet accumulation process helps them gradually become more insightful over time, and that insight is often clearly perceived by others through their behavior. In a family environment, the habit of listening while eating together is especially meaningful. Family meals are not just about eating, but also about connecting generations. When parents listen to their children's stories, children feel safer and are more likely to open up. When children listen to their parents' stories, respect and closeness are naturally formed. Families that maintain the habit of listening during meals tend to have a warmer atmosphere and fewer misunderstandings. In the workplace, the ability to listen while eating with colleagues or partners is also crucial. Many lasting partnerships don't begin in the boardroom, but rather at meals where people can chat more freely. Those who know how to listen not only understand the needs of others better, but also build trust thereby opening up more opportunities for collaboration. Sometimes, a meal with genuine listening is worth far more than a lengthy presentation. It's worth noting that the ability to listen isn't entirely innate, but can be cultivated. Someone wanting to become more empathetic can start with small things, such as putting down their phone while eating with others, looking at the person speaking, not interrupting, and thinking before responding. With repeated practice, listening gradually becomes a natural habit. And once this habit is formed, people will find that their relationships become smoother, deeper, and less conflict-ridden. Many people think that to gain respect, one must speak well and express oneself frequently. But in reality, those who know how to listen are often more trusted. They create a sense of security in communication because the other person knows that their story will not be disregarded. This trust accumulates over time and gradually becomes the foundation of personal credibility. When a person knows how to listen and speak at the right time, their words also carry more weight. In life, everyone longs to be understood, but not everyone is willing to listen to others first. Those who know how to listen during a meal are actually cultivating a very important skill, stepping aside to see the world from another person's perspective. When they do this, they not only understand others better, but also understand themselves more deeply, because often the stories they hear reflect things they've never realized about themselves. A dining table may simply be a place to eat, but it can also become a place to nurture understanding between people. Every time we choose to listen a little more, be a little more patient, and care a little more, we are contributing to stronger relationships. And over time, these small habits at mealtimes become the foundation for shaping a calm, thoughtful, and trustworthy person. Therefore, when sitting at the table with others, instead of focusing solely on the food, pay attention to the conversation, the emotions, and the people sitting in front of you. Listening doesn't diminish us. It broadens our horizons. People who know how to listen while eating are usually quiet, yet they always leave a feeling of comfort and trust. And it is this ability to listen, repeated through each small meal, that gradually builds empathy, a quality that makes a person valuable in any environment. 12. In everyday life, many people believe that only great deeds reveal a person's character. However, the reality is different. It is the small, repeated habits of each day that most clearly reflect a person's upbringing and inner depth. One such simple yet profoundly meaningful habit is saying thank you after a meal. This seemingly small act is not only a matter of politeness, but also demonstrates gratitude, respect, and the educational foundation nurtured by family and environment. Mealtime is a moment when people pause their busy lives to recharge and connect with one another. In that moment, a great deal of effort goes into creating a complete meal, from the farmer, the transporter, the cook, to the table setter. When someone says thank you after a meal, even if it's just a simple, gentle thank you, they are acknowledging that the meal didn't happen naturally. They recognize the value of others' efforts and show appreciation for seemingly ordinary things. People who make a habit of saying thank you after meals are usually those with a clear sense of contentment. They understand that not everyone gets to enjoy a complete meal every day, and therefore they appreciate what they have. This appreciation helps them maintain a more stable mindset, complain less, and feel more content with life. A grateful person tends to live a more peaceful life because they see the value in the smallest things, instead of focusing only on shortcomings. The habit of saying thank you also reflects how a person was educated from a young age. In many families, children are taught to say thank you after a meal, not only to show politeness, but also to cultivate a sense of gratitude. When this habit is repeated over the years, it becomes a natural reflex, requiring no prompting. Adults who carry this habit often make a good impression from the first meeting, because genuine politeness always makes others feel comfortable and respected. In a family setting, expressing gratitude after a meal carries immense significance in fostering connection. When someone thanks the cook, they are acknowledging the cook's quiet efforts. Even a simple thank you can make the person who prepared the meal feel appreciated and motivated to care for their family. Over time, these small expressions of thanks create a warm atmosphere where everyone feels their efforts are recognized. In social settings, the habit of saying thank you after a meal also makes a strong impression. When dining with friends, colleagues, or business partners, someone who knows how to say thank you not only demonstrates politeness, but also shows they are mindful of relationships. People often appreciate those who value small things, as it shows they have refined communication skills and the ability to build lasting relationships. Many people consider thank yous to be a mere social formality, but their true value lies in the underlying attitude. A thank you expressed sincerely creates positive emotions for both the speaker and the listener. When people regularly express gratitude, their minds gradually develop a habit of viewing life more positively. They are more likely to recognize the good in ordinary circumstances, and this helps them maintain a stable state of mind amidst life's changes. The habit of saying thank you after a meal also helps people cultivate humility. When we say thank you, we acknowledge that we didn't achieve everything ourselves, but are receiving support from many others. This awareness makes people less arrogant and less likely to believe that all achievements are their own doing. Humility makes them more cooperative, more receptive to learning, and more trustworthy in long-term relationships. For children, being taught to say thank you after a meal has profound educational significance. Children learn to understand that everything they receive is connected to the efforts of others. Understanding this early on helps them develop a habit of respecting those around them, from parents and teachers to friends. Children who grow up with a habit of gratitude tend to be more responsible and more considerate of others' feelings. In modern society, where the fast pace of life leads many to eat hastily, the habit of saying thank you after a meal becomes even more valuable. It's like a small pause, reminding people to return to mindfulness and realize that each meal is part of a chain of labor and care that many people have contributed to. By maintaining this habit, people not only uphold politeness, but also cultivate peace of mind. Some people are successful in their careers, but fail to maintain small habits like saying thank you. This sometimes creates a sense of distance in their personal relationships. Conversely, there are very humble people who always make a habit of saying thank you after every meal, and it is this simplicity that makes them well-liked. This shows that character is not only judged by great achievements, but also by the small details in daily life. A simple thank you after a meal doesn't take much time, but its value can last a long time. It creates warmth in the family, goodwill in social relationships, and peace of mind for the speaker. When a person maintains this habit over the years, it becomes part of their character, subtle yet clear, simple yet profound. Therefore, whether the meal is at home, at work, or at a gathering with friends, take a few seconds to say thank you. This small gesture not only shows politeness, but also demonstrates your appreciation for others' efforts and your value in seemingly ordinary things. When gratitude becomes a habit, people live more deeply, relationships become stronger, and these simple acts silently build a solid foundation for each individual's upbringing. 13. In life, many believe that to understand a person, one must observe them during major decisions, important situations, or challenging times. However, in reality, it is the small, repetitive details of daily life that best reflect their long-term habits. The dining table is one of the places where this is most clearly revealed. The way a person holds their chopsticks, the way they pick up food, the way they converse, or how they maintain shared space. These are small expressions that nonetheless contain a whole underlying way of life. The dining table isn't a stage for showing off. It's an everyday space where people are least guarded. Because of this naturalness, small behaviors often appear genuine. A tidy person will tend to keep their dining area clean. They wipe up spills, neatly arrange dishes and utensils, and don't let food fall everywhere. This not only reflects a habit of maintaining hygiene, but also shows they are disciplined and have a sense of order in their lives. Conversely, people who often leave their dining tables messy, don't bother to clean up after eating, or spill things without noticing, are very likely to carry careless habits into other areas of their lives. Habits aren't formed in a day. They're the result of long-term repetition. Therefore, simply observing a meal can give us some insight into how they treat their living space, their work, and themselves. The way a person waits at the dinner table is also a noteworthy detail. Some people patiently wait for everyone to be present before starting. Others rush to eat first, paying little attention to the group's rhythm. This patience or impatience is not only evident during meals, but often repeats in many other situations in life. Those who know how to wait tend to think carefully before acting. Impulsive people are more likely to make decisions before their emotions have calmed down. Small details, like how one picks up food, reflect their lifestyle habits. Refined individuals are mindful not to take the best parts for themselves, nor do they rummage through the plate to find the perfect piece. They consider others, demonstrating a habit of thinking of the collective. Conversely, if someone consistently chooses the best parts for themselves without regard for others, it's likely they also carry the habit of prioritizing themselves excessively in their daily lives. Your attitude towards waiters, cooks, or family members during meals is a small but meaningful detail. People who habitually express gratitude and acknowledge the efforts of others tend to live with appreciation. They understand that everything they receive is connected to the efforts of others. This gratitude, if maintained over time, becomes the foundation for lasting relationships. In contrast, indifference or disregard for the efforts of others often reflects a lack of concern. The way a person speaks at the dinner table also reveals their long-standing communication habits. Those who know how to listen, don't interrupt others, don't speak too loudly or too softly, and tend to respect shared space. They understand that communication isn't about monopolizing the conversation, but about exchange. Maintaining this habit over time helps them build many trusting relationships. Conversely, those who constantly talk about themselves and listen little easily make others feel overwhelmed, and this often happens in various settings. Even the speed of eating reflects one's pace of life. Those who eat slowly tend to think things through carefully and are less impulsive. Those who eat too quickly may be accustomed to a fast-paced lifestyle, dedicating less time to observation and feeling. Of course, eating speed doesn't always tell the whole story, but if it's a long-standing habit, it's often linked to how they handle work and cope with pressure. When unexpected situations arise, such as food not to one's liking, food being served late, or minor errors, a person's reaction reveals their living habits. Those who calmly adjust and offer gentle suggestions are often those with good emotional control. They don't let small things disrupt overall harmony. Conversely, those who easily get angry and complain harshly about trivial matters may also frequently let emotions dominate many other aspects of their lives. The dining table also reflects a person's sharing style. When there's delicious food, do they proactively offer it to others? When they see someone next to them hasn't had their share, do they notice? These details aren't impulsive actions, but rather expressions of long-standing habits of caring. People accustomed to sharing don't need to think twice before giving up their share to others. This generosity is cultivated over many years, and the dining table is simply where it becomes more apparent. It's noteworthy that these small details often repeat themselves very naturally. One might prepare for an important meeting by dressing impeccably and speaking cautiously. But in casual meals, spontaneity prevails. It is there that true habits emerge. And because habits are formed over a long period, these observable small details tend to be consistent rather than random. Looking at the dining table, one can see a microcosm of life. Orderliness reflects discipline. Patience reflects the ability to wait. Sharing reflects generosity. Listening reflects empathy. Gratitude reflects a good upbringing. All are elements that constitute a person's enduring character. Therefore, if you want to improve yourself, sometimes you don't need to start with huge goals. Start with the small details at the dinner table. Keep the space a little cleaner. Wait a little longer for others. Listen a little more. Say thank you a little more often. When these small things are repeated every day, they gradually become habits. And it is these habits, accumulated over the years, that will silently shape the character and foundation of each person. The dining table is just a small corner of life, yet it's enough to reflect an entire life journey. These small details are quiet and unassuming, yet enduring and honest. Those who pay attention to them not only understand others more deeply, but also have the opportunity to reflect on themselves, adjusting and growing day by day. A person's character is often revealed through grand pronouncements, important decisions, or notable actions in life. However, what truly reflects a person is often found in the smallest details, in the repetitive daily habits that they themselves may not even notice. The dining table is one of the places where this is most clearly demonstrated, as it is an everyday space where people are less guarded and behave according to their natural habits. When sitting with others at a meal, the way a person waits, invites others to eat, converses, or reacts to small situations, all reveal something about their upbringing and lifestyle habits. Some people always check if everyone is ready before starting, while others proactively offer food to others before eating their own. These simple actions are not temporary arrangements, but often stem from habits of caring that have been formed over time. Conversely, some people during meals focus only on their own food, paying little attention to the shared space or the feelings of those around them. These seemingly small details reflect how they perceive relationships in life. People who know how to share during meals are often also more cooperative and caring about the collective good in their work and life. Those who remain calm when faced with unpleasant situations at the dinner table often also have better emotional control when facing greater pressure. Observing the dining table isn't about judging a person in a single moment, but about understanding that character is formed from small, repeated behaviors every day. When we pay attention to small details, we not only understand others better, but also have the opportunity to reflect on ourselves. By simply changing a few small habits, such as waiting a little longer, listening a little more, or keeping shared spaces a little tidier, we begin to build the image of a refined and trustworthy person. Life is not only made up of major turning points, but also of countless small actions accumulated over time. The daily dinner table is where these small actions quietly emerge and gradually become lasting habits. Understanding this, we realize that self-improvement doesn't need to begin with something far-fetched. It can start with simple gestures in our daily lives. Character isn't just revealed through grand pronouncements. It's also through the smallest actions at the dinner table. If you want to understand someone more deeply, observe how they behave when eating with others. If you find this content helpful, please share the video so more people can reflect on it.